on that point, let's bring in retired Special Forces Major Heston Russell. Heston, good to see you. Thanks for your time. Let's get your reaction to that claim from the Taliban spokesman yesterday that Australian troops died in vain.
Hey, good morning, Peter, and thanks for the chat. Yeah, well, what an idiot. We all know that our servicemen and women did not die in vain.
Yeah.
And we knew that it was protecting the Afghan citizens from monsters like him. And I look forward to hearing our government step up to make that defensive position. But to all veterans sitting out there watching this, you know, this is what the Taliban's been sitting and waiting to do for the last 3, 4, 5 years in Qatar. You know, it's a PR campaign. And of course, they're looking to undermine us when we're not there, when they're brave enough to say that without facing us on the battlefield like they did for nearly 20 years. And where over 11,000 Taliban insurgents were killed by our Special Operations Task Group.
Yeah, I mean, Heston, I saw those comments yesterday and I kind of rolled my eyes. I'm like, yeah, well, they would say that. It didn't surprise me, but you were there. You were on the battlefield, and you know, does it annoy you? Does it frustrate you? Does it just elaborate on that feeling as a digger?
Yeah, well, these unfortunately are the cowards that we fought against, Peter. You know. Particularly during my time there, and particularly once we started to really step up our lethal operations against them, we didn't come across formed formations of the Taliban like you're seeing now. We came across insurgents who would shoot and scoot. They would fire their weapons at us, then throw them down, then pick up their picks and their shovels and claim to be farmers. We were fighting against people who were letting off suicide IED vests in marketplaces, in villages, like you saw the attacks in the Kabul and around the Kabul airport. You know, we're attacking people who are enslaving and attacking women. You know, for people to then stand up and try and beat their chest and say our soldiers died in vain, it's just an absolute cowardly act. But it's nothing new to us and any of us who were there on the ground from the Taliban.
Yeah, so just back up on that, Heston. So you were fighting them, and then they'd run away, and then they'd pretend to be farmers. They'd pick up their axes and throw their guns and hide them or whatever. And that was a pretty common occurrence, was it?
Yeah, absolutely. This counterinsurgency warfare, and unfortunately, Peter, you may have seen there's just been so much of a barrage continue from some reporters who covered things like the Burton report release. You know, all of these things need to come out during the actual courts. But yeah, these are the people we're fighting against. They weren't in uniform. You know, they weren't wearing all the fantastic equipment we're seeing here and now. They were hiding behind women and children. They were hiding their weapons and their bombs in the bedrooms of women and children. And they would shoot at us from far enough, and when we got close enough, they would try and pretend that they were farmers. But fortunately, our Afghan partner force that we had on the mission on the ground every single time were able to pick them apart and took them home and arrested them, and the rest is history from there.
So what do you make of the situation that we are in now, Heston, where the West may well have to work with the Taliban to not only just move forward from a political sense, but also to defeat ISIS-K?
Yeah, absolutely, Peter. I mean, that's just the unique nature of this strategic world we live in. You know, as a veteran from on the ground, it sort of annoys me that you have to do so, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And look, we've definitely done that. I was a part of the force that went into Iraq to fight ISIS back in 2016, 2017. And unfortunately, we actually can't, you know, hold on to the fact that the Taliban was our enemy. If there is a greater threat to the Australian people, which have to be our priority and those we have a moral obligation for, then that may very well happen. But I don't think we're ever going to be calling them our friends. But, you know, sometimes, unfortunately, there are greater goods in the world that require those who have formerly been enemies to work together. But, you know, while they're saying comments like that, I really look forward to seeing what our government does. And in the meantime, Peter, through my organisation, vsf.org.au, we're still busy engaging with Australian citizens who have their families who were lined up outside Kabul when those bomb blasts went off and didn't make the flights out with approved visas, still trying to get home. And we're still sitting here sending emails to our ministers and our members of parliament because these people haven't been contacted in over a week.
How many? How many, Heston?
I've got about a dozen cases on the go at the moment. Last night I had a contact from a Australian citizen, a husband and a wife, 2 Australian citizens. He served 8 years in our Navy, and his family, all of them have approved refugee visas, were lined up outside on the 25th of August and have not heard from anyone from the Department of Foreign Affairs for the last week. That's just one of about a dozen. I've just been sending them through to Jackie Lambie as she steps up this Senate inquiry. But for the Australian public at home, this is what our politicians should be looking at, not worrying about cowards beating their chest saying that our soldiers died in vain when they know they did. We have Australian citizens right here and right now who need our help and who need our support.